to get a clearer picture on the ground and feel the pulse of the election. Now, James, never before has a general election in Britain been so tight. Any indication of who's likely to get to the top?
Well, see, we're starting with the easy questions first of all, Fariba. This is really too close to call. It's the most unpredictable election for decades. You remember just only a few years ago, the two main parties would just really change hands, change seats in Downing Street, passing the role of government from one to the other. Here's what we do know. The latest poll by the respected pollster, Lord Ashcroft, puts the Conservative Party on 32% of the vote, 2 percentage points ahead of Labour. UKIP in on third at 12%, with the Lib Dems coming in fourth place. Now, this is the key question, I think. What will be decided here is how strong will the government be that's formed, because a coalition government needs to get a 326-seat majority in Parliament if it's to actually get anything through the House of Commons. So that's the key question. Just how can the two parties cobble together a coalition once the ballots close?
Right, James, but you see, you mentioned the shape of the Parliament. The prospect of a hung Parliament has made lesser political parties, such as you mentioned, UKIP, more relevant. Now, what role can UKIP, for example, and its anti-immigration policy play in the next British governance?
Well, we'll just have to wait and see how many seats they get. You could argue they've already played a pretty big role already, whoever becomes the next Prime Minister. Whether you like the politics of Nigel Farage or not, UKIP have already in some way, in part, set the agenda for this election with their tub-thumping campaign on the economy and, of course, on immigration. Now, if they do indeed come in with that sort of popular vote that I mentioned earlier, roughly 12%, under a proportional representation system, they could pick up between 75 and 85 seats. So I think that's what they'll be pushing for, even if they've only got a few MPs, or the SNP as well. They're likely to be the third biggest party. They'll be the kingmakers in the next Parliament. You'll see those parties pushing for a proportional representation. Britain currently has first past the post, the winner-takes-all system. It means that smaller parties don't get the seats in Parliament directly related to the popular vote. But I think the bigger question here is that British politics is going to be set for a huge overhaul. There's a lot of people that are very dissatisfied with the way things work here. And I think that whoever becomes the next Prime Minister will have to tackle that issue. Look at the turnout, especially youth turnout, how many people are actually going to cast their ballots. If you look at the confidence that people have in politicians, an Ipsos poll published in January 2015 states that only 16% of the British public actually trusts politicians. Journalists coming just behind with 22%, and bankers on 31%. But that's the big challenge for whoever becomes the next Prime Minister, is how they can reconnect with the voter and build that trust up again.
Thank you very much, James. Exciting times.